Metropolitan Council for November 12, 2025. Our first order of business is the Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement, and tonight I'm going to turn to Councilmember Lindstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is the ancestral homeland of the Dakota Iote, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Iote, the Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policy. These commitments support the Dakota Iote, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the 7-county region home.
Thank you, Councilmember. On to approval of the agenda. If there's no changes or additions, we can proceed. Seeing none, moving to the approval of the October 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes. If there are no changes or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Awesome, seconded by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is public invitation. We have the point where interested speakers may address the councils on matters not on the agenda. We did have one person sign up via email, I believe. Steve Coomer, welcome. And if you could keep your comments about 3 minutes? Yep. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the council, my name is Steve Coomer. I live at 2287 Schreier Avenue East in North St. Paul. On the evening of November 5th, around 9 p.m., I was assaulted unprovoked on a transit bus. The assailant acted toward me in a hostile manner. After I stepped away and yelled for the assailant to stop, they threw a full can of beer at me, which hit me in the side of my neck. Metro Transit Police responded and filed an incident report. Because the injury was minor, I decided not to press charges. The professionalism of the bus operator and the responding officers was nothing short of excellent. As you can imagine, the event was traumatic. Once I got home, I processed through that trauma. There was fear, some anxiety, a little anger. By far, though, I came up with profound disappointment. See, I like transit. I like to use it whenever it makes sense. Being free of a car and not having to worry about parking is appealing to me. However, that appeal is somewhat bittersweet, as I have been physically assaulted twice previously on Metro Transit, along with the most recent occurrence that would make it 3 within the last 5 years. My family and I took a trip to New York City this past summer. We stayed in a place in Newark, New Jersey, and used transit to get around. I'll put it this way. My wife and I felt safe enough on transit to allow our 2 teenage kids to navigate the New York and New Jersey transit systems by themselves, even though they had never been there. I can't say the same thing about the transit system in my own metro. This isn't meant to admonish or point fingers. I don't have a solution or answer for any of this, but I do have one recommendation though. Stop being nice. Stop being nice. Set the tone on our transit system that bad behavior is not to be tolerated and to stay out of other people's business. Quit making excuses for such behavior for the sake of the customers and the staff that run the system. Transit has become more of a liability than a convenience for me. Imagine what it's like for those that are a lot more dependent on it. Quit with the excuses and the scapegoating. We're how many years off the COVID pandemic now? Yeah, you can quit using that one too. People have lives and things to do and deserve to go about their days in relative safety. Fix it.
Thank you very much, and sorry for your experience. All right, anybody else in the audience tonight who wishes to address the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to consent business. I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Osman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember Jenkins.
So I'll just let you know that one of the items on there, my wife works there, so I will be abstaining from this vote.
Very good, thank you. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And motion carries. Thank you. On to non-consent business. Our first item is business item 2025-288, which is the funding recommendations for 2025 Livable Communications Demonstration Account and TOD grants. And I don't know which council member is doing this motion.
20.
I'm sorry, what did you do?
For community development?
Thank you. I am so sorry.
No worries.
Madam Chair, council members, business item number 2025-187 is regarding the Blue Line Extension Design and Engineering Services Contract Amendment.
There's this one first.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I am so sorry. Popping in, and we'll just do this.
No worries. Thank you,
All right.
Councilmember.
Thank you. So, business item number 2025-288 is the award of $15,750,000 in Livable Communities Act grant funds to support 15 development projects in 10 cities. Livable Communities Demonstration Account and transit-oriented development grants provide funding for projects that increase access to housing, jobs, services, and transit in an effort to support more equitable, livable communities in our region. 23 applications were received from the cities of Apple Valley, Bloomington, Brooklyn Center, Columbia Heights, Cottage Grove, Falcon Heights, Hopkins, Little Canada, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. And the recommended projects will support affordable housing, affordable home ownership, mixed-use development, public spaces, and local small businesses. So, Madam Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council award 15 Livable Communities Demonstration Account and Transit-Oriented Development Account, or grants, as shown in Table 1 of the business item, and authorize the Executive Director of Community Development to execute the grant agreements on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wolf. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. There are no reports on environment, but we have two from management. I will.
Madam Chair, are there two business items here for community development?
No, just one.
One.
She's doing management.
One's for transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. On to management. So Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to bring before two items today for consideration by council members. The first one is item 2025-261. It's in a same week item, and this is actually an amended language coming from a management committee prior to today. So it's same week because we took it up again today. So we just want to get that clear. This again is business item 2025-261. It's FM 14-2 expenditures for procurement of goods, services, and real estate property. Business item 2025-261 updates policy FM 14-2 expenditures for procurement of goods, services, and real estate property. These policy changes are driven by the need to update thresholds that were last changed more than a decade ago. The changes to FM 14-2 increase the regional administrator's signature authority from $500,000 to $2 million. Which allows the regional administrator to authorize new contracts for goods and services up to the $2 million threshold. The regional administrator will also be authorized to acquire real property and interest in real property for amounts not exceeding $2 million. Currently, any new award over $500,000 and for any of the existing awards over $500,000, any amendment that increases the contract value more than 10% of the original value requires a business item to be approved by committee and then brought before council for action. The increase to the regional administrator's signature authority will shorten the lead time and will allow committees and the council to focus their energies, efforts, and discussion on the highest value contract actions. Operational divisions will be able to serve the public more nimbly and respond to time-sensitive matters more quickly. Shortening procurement lead times also helps the vendor community more effectively allocate their resources. Adopting these policies updates will create efficiency, opportunity, consistency, and clarity for the council. This item, again, has been reviewed and approved by the Management Committee, which made some minor clerical amendments to the business item today, and which are reflected in the red line copy of the report in your business item. Therefore, Madam Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the updated version of the FM 14-2 procurement policy, which is attached to the business item 2025-261.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Osman. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and that one is adopted. Back to you, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to the one that we just did, this is item 2025-262. It's the same week because we've had this previously in management, needed to amend the language, and we're bringing it forward today as a same week item. Business item 2025-262 updates policy FM 15-1 regarding income grants policy. This policy change increases the regional administrator's authority to enter into income contracts and grant agreements from $500,000 to $2 million, in keeping with the proposed changes to the regional administrator's authority in 14.2, which we just adopted. The increase to the regional administrator's signature authority provides similar efficiencies to the increase in signature authority the council just passed. This item has been reviewed and approved by the Management Committee, which made, again, some minor clerical amendments to the business item at its meeting today, and which are redlined in the item that's part of your business item. Therefore, Madam Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the updated version of the FM 15-1 income grants policy, which is attached to the business item 2025-262.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jenkins. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. On to transportation. Back to Councilmember Tony Carter.
Thank you. Madam Chair, in the absence of Chair Chambliss, I chaired transportation and will report on its last meeting. And so business item number 2025-187 is regarding the Blue Line Extension Design and Engineering Services Contract Amendment. Kimley Horn and Associates was awarded the design and engineering services contract for the Blue Line Extension LRT project in 2023. Since the contract scope of work was developed in 2022, several changes in the project design have resulted in a need for a contract amendment to continue with final design and reach the bidding phase in 2027. One example includes the LRT alignment shift from Lindell Avenue to Washington Avenue. The amendment is funded through the capital grant agreement with Hennepin County and Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority, which was a question asked at Transportation Committee. Therefore, Madam Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute an amendment for contract 22P103A with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. to increase the contract value by $42,900,000 for a total contract not to exceed the amount of $139,275,448.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Osman. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And at the committee, I supported this. I just want to make it known for anybody who's kind of tracking this item that this is Hennepin County money that is coming to the Met Council in form of a grant, and then we are moving it into the project to keep it moving as part of the official process. So I just wanted to make sure that that was just part. I've had some people ask me that question, so on the record, I just wanted to put it out there. But I'll be supporting this as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, thank you all. We have no joint reports, so we're on to other reports. So our first other report this evening is the release of the SUDs for public comment and setting a hearing date. We have a short presentation, I believe. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Barushka Mishtaz, and, I'm sorry, Bridget, come on over. My name is Barushka Mishtaz. I'm a planning analyst in the Community Development Division and also the project manager for the 2025 Regional Economic Framework Update. Joining me today is Bridget Tuck, the author of the report. And today I'm here to ask for the release of the 2025 Regional Framework Update for public comment. Before I go ahead, though, I would like to have a quick reminder and talk a little bit about the timeline. And then afterwards, I'd like to present a few slides on our key revisions that we made in response to the comments we heard from you in the Committee of the Whole meeting on October 15th. So I would like to remind you that the 2025 Regional Economic Framework, or REF update, is a commitment that the Council made under Imagine 2050. And to ensure that our region remains dynamic and resilient is one of the goals, one of the 5 goals the Council committed to. And update of the 2025 Regional Economic Framework is a key implementation task for that the Council committed to support this goal. In terms of our project timeline, I just want to give you a brief idea as to how we came to this point. In 2024, Council staff conducted a study of the Regional Economic Framework and to prepare for the dynamic and resilient goal of the Imagine 2050 document. Since then, we used the findings of that report to shape the 2025 REF document. And we also, to make the document more collaborative, we have consulted and convened a group of regional stakeholders that met 5 times between April and September 2025. And between September and October, our consultants put together a draft document that came before you in October 15th. And we are basically coming to you today after incorporating the revisions that you recommended. And we're formally requesting that the document is released for public comment. On December 22nd, at the end of the public comment period, we're hoping that we could, as staff, collect public comments, review them and respond to them, and bring back a public comment report back to you for your review in early or mid-January, with the hope that it will be adopted early February 2026. So just to quickly report on the findings, we heard overall that many of the findings resonated with council members. And we specifically, many of the comments that we have heard highlighted the importance of workforce development and the alignment of skills with job qualifications or job requirements. We also heard broad agreement on the negative impacts of racial disparities on the region's economy, especially on the labor market dynamics, and the role of immigrants in supporting current and future workforce has also been identified as something that resonated with you. And finally, we heard overall satisfaction with the key recommendations that the staff suggested. And in addition to these, we also heard some suggestions for change, and specifically we heard that you wanted us to integrate existing council initiatives such as LCA grants and TOD development initiatives to be included among the implementation items. Also, you wanted us to include council commitments in the body of the document, and both of these changes have been incorporated into the document. So overall, we heard that the council is content with the report itself with minor suggestions. So based on that content, we decided to propose today that the Metropolitan Council release the 2025 Regional Economic Framework for public comment. authorize a public comment period from November 13, 2025 to December 22nd, 2025, and conduct a public hearing at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, at the regularly scheduled Metropolitan Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just add a couple comments for council members. The council first adopted the Regional Economic Framework in 2020 as the region's initial SETS alternative. The framework describes the state of the regional economy and identifies shared priorities to advance economic health and prosperity for everyone in the region. Maintaining an updated framework is required by the U.S. Economic Development Administration to remain eligible for federal economic development funding. This 2025 update, they did a really great job of aligning everything with Imagine 2050 and the goal that we as a council established that our region would be dynamic and resilient. It's developed with work with council staff, with support and work from the University of Minnesota and broad stakeholders, including a 26-member advisory committee, which that's a big group to manage, so very well done. So the draft that I mentioned before us is what reflects the revisions after we discussed it at our committee of the whole meeting. So with that, you can see the action item before you, so I would entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-289.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Johnson. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Great work.
All right, on to business item number 2025-298. And this is the, Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. We also have a presentation for us this evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Peter Wolfart. I am a principal researcher in community development. Along with Jillian Greenberg, we're here to present the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, which was developed as part of the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. So as a reminder, this is an EPA planning grant for climate mitigation in the region. The timeline runs from July 2023 to July 2027, and we're here today to request permission to submit the major deliverable to the EPA, which is the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. We have a December 1st deadline for that plan to the EPA to be in compliance with our grant. We closed a public comment period on October 17th. We've incorporated those changes into the new draft and have some additional ones that we will highlight throughout, some additional additions from the last time we presented to you all. We do have one more deliverable to the EPA in 2027, which is a status report. But again, this is the major document that they are asking us for. So all of our sections, which are listed here, are now complete and in compliance with the EPA grant requirements. Since the version we sent to you all in September, we've added technical appendices and filled out our workforce analysis appendix as well, and that is also has information in the main document as well. The workforce analysis was completed in partnership with the Department of Employment and Economic Development. We have incorporated public comment updates, which Jillian will highlight later in this presentation. We've also just made accessibility updates throughout the document to make sure we're in compliance with those as well. So we have shown this graph many times, but as a reminder, this is a highlight of the major and minor emitters in the region of greenhouse gases. So it is an 11-county inventory. So we are a little bit broader than what we're used to working with at the 7-county level, but we also have Sherburne, Chisago counties, and then Pierce and St. Croix in Wisconsin as part of our grant with the EPA here. So like I said, we highlight the emitters, but we also want to highlight the natural systems, which are that natural carbon drawdown. And these are our analysis of what we think we can pull out of the atmosphere per year as well. And we have a new color scheme too, if you've noticed, a little brighter.
So throughout the process of developing the comprehensive climate action plan, we had two major sources of data inputs. We had the inventory, which showed us where emissions were coming from, and then we conducted engagement with stakeholders throughout the region to understand how they wanted to see climate action reflected in this plan. So one of our main forums for engagement was a steering committee that guides this work. It is composed of city, county, and tribal staff. They met quarterly over the course of the development of this plan to guide us in ensuring that this plan was aligned with the efforts that are happening at local levels throughout the region. And this group actually will continue to meet every 6 months through the remainder of the grant period. They'll be helping hold us accountable to tracking our progress on this grant. We'll be communicating with them about data updates that will continue through the remainder of the grant, and it'll provide a forum to discuss opportunities to collaborate on implementation. The community climate collaboration was our main forum for engaging with residents across the 11-county region. We worked with 8 organizations and had a workshop series with each of them to learn about their priorities for climate action. And then finally, we had a workforce work group, which was really specifically scoped to support the workforce analysis that DEED was compiling as part of this plan. So, with the data from the inventory as well as our engagement, we developed 18 greenhouse gas reduction strategies. These strategies cover all of the sectors that produce emissions in the region, and they're very similar to the ones that we presented to you in September when we presented the draft plan and released for public comment. Since that time, we've added a 5th transportation strategy. It's the 5th one on the list here as well. And it's a strategy that we developed in collaboration with transportation planners at the Met Council to reflect recent legislative updates to state statute that require roadway projects that expand vehicle capacity, offset their project emissions and vehicle miles travels impact. So that state statute change is now also reflected in our regional climate action plan. Other than that, the only changes to these strategies have been minor edits for clarity, but the content is largely the same.
So as part of those policy initiatives that Jillian just highlighted, we are projecting out to 2050, which is both in line with the state's goals of net zero in 2050 and the EPA requirements. So you can see 2 kind of major lines in this graph here. The first is that dotted line that goes through the present and then continues up to 2050. That's the business as usual projections we have. So this incorporates policy that is in statute, the major one being the 2040 Clean Electricity Standard and the reduction in VMT, the 20% per capita reduction in VMT, as well as just market trends and understanding of increases in efficiency that are expected. So there is some reduction there, but we see a really major gap between these potential policy pathway that we're highlighting here. So that potential policy pathway is a hybrid of our own analysis and state analysis where appropriate. And it's ambitious, but it still does not get us down to that net zero mark. So it is a major advance from where we think we're going in business as usual, but there will still be more work to be done ahead of time. And that net zero is that small dash to the bottom right there. And just to kind of reiterate what that means is that anything that's emitted within the region is also being offset. And right now, the only offset we have in the region are our natural systems. So ambitious, but more work to be done is kind of the highlight there. And you can see the different sectors. Within the report, we also break sectors out a little, so more fine scale, so you can see what they're each doing individually. So this is an example from our residential building analysis. Again, kind of a hybrid of our analyses within the Met Council. Of how we understand housing stock will change, and also state modeling efforts to understand how those reductions in things like electrifying and making our homes more efficient can reduce emissions in the region. And once again, the net zero sets that kind of proportional amount that we might expect to be aiming for ultimately in the sector. So yeah, just sector by sector, we can get a little more fine detailed, and that will be continued work we bring into our tools and work for communities as well.
So the Met Council held a public comment period on this plan from September 25th to October 17th. And during that time, we received 39 public comments from local governments, from community organizations and residents across the 11-county region. Most of these were received through an online form, and we also received emails and conducted 2 community workshops. And we consolidated and synthesized what we heard through that public comment period into these 5 themes you see on the slide here. The first 2 themes are more overarching themes. The first one is about clarity and implementation details we heard through the public comment period, where readers were requesting better graphics or more details or more clear sentences on certain aspects of the plan. We also heard that that public commenters were really interested in partnerships with underserved communities and wanted the council to continue to prioritize inclusive and equitable approaches to climate action. Patterns 3 through 5 are more sector specific and where we heard the most engagement through the public comment period across the different strategies in the plans. Pattern 3 looks at transportation strategies more specifically. We saw a lot of public comments about transportation, in particular public transit and walking and biking infrastructure were highlighted in a lot of public comments. There was a lot of support for those strategies. Pattern 4 was focused on waste and the circular economy. We heard in public comments an encouragement that we don't just think about waste strategies as recycling and composting, but think about waste more expansively, to think about reuse, repair, and other ways that we can reduce waste before we end up throwing it in a trash can, recycling, or compost bin. And finally, there was a lot of interest in the natural systems work as a part of this plan that showed up in the public comment. There was interest in how we were calculating the sequestration rates. There was interest in further emphasizing the resilience benefits of natural systems throughout the region, and an interest of highlighting what it takes to do the ongoing maintenance work to keep natural systems healthy throughout the region. So in addition to synthesizing these themes, council staff has responded to each public comment individually, and the public comment report attached to this item shares those responses. Council staff also went through and edited the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan to reflect the many good suggestions that we heard from the public comment period. And we just are really grateful for all of the folks who engaged, took the time to read this technical document and provide us really good feedback throughout the different strategies, the technical components, and there's a red line version of the report attached also to this item if you want to see the individual edits that were made in response to those comments. So with that, there are 2 actions before the council today. The first is to accept the public comment report for the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. And the second one is to authorize council staff to finalize the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, including making non-substantive edits for plain language accessibility or consistency, and then submit the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So with that, we're happy to take any questions, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you so much for your hard work on this. Really appreciate it. And do we have any idea how much money is available from EPA and how many plans will be coming their way and what kind of funds might be possible? And then, you know, I think we've got a pretty robust region that wants to get around this, hence all the good feedback you're getting. But, you know, there's a cost to doing all of this work too. So I'm always interested in how do we get to either policies or incentives or legislation or whatever that helps those who aren't going to be able to maybe get some of the grant money, or it's short-term grant money, or maybe it's demonstration grant money, that kind of a thing. But that sustainability of all the work that we're doing is people are eager to do some of this. That's a lot for you to consider, but you know, we're doing our part, but it's definitely partner work, right? And I just know, based on you know what I'm hearing from our local partners, nonprofits, everybody's kind of strapped right now just because of money kind of moving away from the federal government that would normally be coming to the state. So is there kind of a part 2 to this if you get into the program, what we can expect? Yeah, Chair and Councilmember Johnson, that's a great question.
what the funding that's available from EPA right now is changing, and there are some specific federal programs that still fund aspects of this work, and that's especially true in the agriculture sector. A lot of those programs continue to be funded and available to support sustainable agricultural practices. In other areas, some of those programs have been affected more significantly in the last year. There's also funding at a state level, and there are programs that support local climate action planning and more specific energy efforts or transportation efforts across all these sectors. There's at least a handful for each strategy, and in the plan, we call out what those different funding sources are, federal, state, and local, that we could find in our research to create this plan. And we're working on figuring out how we turn these static lists in this plan into a resource for communities that they can access more easily as they do their own planning. I think we also acknowledge that there's a lot of work that has to be done based on what's in this plan, and it's going to be a shared effort. And there are certainly actions that are really much higher cost, but there are also actions that communities can do as part of their day-to-day, year-to-year work of updating infrastructure, of planning that they do at a community level, and integrating the climate work into day-to-day business is often a way to do the work without increasing costs to communities as significantly. And so that's definitely something that we're thinking about, how we can provide guidance and support to communities as they go into comprehensive planning to guide them towards where those opportunities exist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank
Thank you. Additional questions, Councilmember Lindstrom?
Thanks. Councilmember Johnson, your question about funding is a relevant one, and one that a lot of people are thinking about. In fact, just today, there was a webinar at noon called Funding Your Local Climate Projects in Minnesota. How about that for timely? And in terms of the federal side of things, good luck, quite frankly. But on the state level, there are 5 active grants. One's called Solar on Public Buildings. That's available now until December 1st. And there's been over 100 applications from across the state, from townships, cities, counties, watershed districts interested in this, as well as planning grants for stormwater, wastewater, and climate resilience, small community planning grants for stormwater and climate resilience, local climate action planning grant, a planning grant, and then an implementation grant. All of these different grants are due at different times in December.
Thank you.
So, there you go.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Councilmember Lindstrom?
I'm just curious, you're both doing a lot of work on the comprehensive plans and the climate adaptation and mitigation requirements for those comprehensive plans, and I'm wondering your thoughts on how this work can be incorporated into the comprehensive plans. Probably in a lot of different ways, on a lot of different data, the implementation strategies that you outlined, in a million other ways, I'm sure. But yeah, if you could expound upon that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Lindstrom, and that is indeed a central goal of ours. So one of the big ways is in the mitigation world. We're taking a lot of the data analysis that we've done, and we're moving it into our greenhouse gas emission reduction tool, which was highlighted with the local planning handbook. So we'll continue that work. That has the extra challenge of taking these data and scaling them down even further to cities and townships and counties. This climate action plan and the guidance we had from the EPA was really helpful in just getting a handle on some of these trickier sectors, especially to understand how to get a proper estimate for the emissions reductions there. So on the data side, certainly we're moving that into interactive tools to help communities meet their minimum requirements and do more. And then I can pass it over to Jillian for the how-to.
Yeah, on the policy side, we're doing the same thing. The strategies that are outlined here are aligned with the strategies that we're seeing communities adopt throughout the region. And so as a part of the suite of tools that we're putting together for comprehensive planning. There'll be a climate action toolkit that'll profile the different types of strategies and what those strategies can look like for different community types throughout the region. So ideas, if you're a rural community, you might want to explore adopting it in a certain way, whereas if you're an urban community, it might look different, and expounding on what those examples are, providing links to resources and common partners who work with communities on these types of actions. So all of that work is in development. The greenhouse gas emissions reduction tool you've seen examples of, and there's a beta version out right now, and the toolkit will be released in early 2026 as well. So all of this work we're trying to repackage and use in other formats as well. So thank you for the question.
Councilor
Just a
Lindstrom.
quick point to hammer that home, that this is not just a 100-page document that's going to sit on a shelf. It's being translated into tools and data that's going to find its way into the local planning handbook. That's going to find itself into comprehensive plans, which will then result in projects on the street, so to speak.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's a good way. Any other comments or questions? I'll echo all of that. You know, the action itself is authorizes submission to the EPA in response to a grant, but this is a lot more. Like this is a technical document itself. As a member of the climate work group, we've gotten presentations on this along the way, and they've been working on this a long time, and it's been very comprehensive and very thorough. But where I've noticed being most impactful is already doing some of the on-the-road meetings with different cities where you can show them some of the interactive tools. And the interactive tool, like having the policies that we've set up, the technical pieces, what we wanted as a vision, but have them be able to see how they could use it and adjust. This is if we do nothing, this is if we do a lot, and just sort of test out some of them. You can see the relief almost like in them that, oh, this is something we'll be able to do and actually have discussions about. So, you know, it's a lot of work that led into this. So just very, very well done. All right, so with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-298.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Lindstrom. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jenkins. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you all for your hard work. On to our final business item of the evening, which is business item 2025-299. It's adopting a resolution setting days, times, and locations for regular meetings of the council and committees and authorizing closed committee meetings. The Metropolitan Council and other public bodies that are subject to the Minnesota open meeting law are required to adopt a schedule of their own meetings per Minnesota statute 13D.04 subdivision 1. As per its bylaws, the council establishes its regular meetings and the regular meetings of its committees by resolution. In addition to setting regular dates, the resolution is required in order to make the adjusted dates regular meetings. As set forth in the resolutions, the council is adjusting the meeting dates for the council, committee of the whole, and management committee meetings for the remainder of 2025 and as necessary in the year 2026 to allow the council to conduct its business without interruption when there are federal and state holidays, particularly during the year-end holiday season. So the action that we're taking tonight is that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached resolution setting days, times, and locations for regular meetings of the council and its committees and authorizing closed committee meetings for the Metropolitan Council, Committee of the Whole, Management Committee, Community Development Committee, Environment Committee, and Transportation Committee per the resolutions attached in the business item. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-299.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for all your hard work on this, if you've been leading some of this, but I really appreciate this. This is systematizing and following state statute and kind of taking charge of how we do our meetings and when we do our meetings. And I just love this kind of work, and I see the changes that are already coming up on our calendars, and I'm like, oh, that's me making sure things keep happening here at the council, and we don't get hung up on some deadlines that we can't manage too. So I just want to call out your great work that you're doing on behalf of the council members and the council.
Very good call out. All right, additional questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we're on to our information items for the evening. So the first one is E-line activation. I believe we have Brian Funk, Adam Smith, and Bob Westgate coming up.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Brian Funk, serve as Deputy General Manager and Chief Operating Officer for Metro Transit. While Adam needs no introduction, I'm here to provide an introduction of a relatively new staff member in our operations team, Mr. Bob Westgate. As noted on the slides, Bob serves as our Senior Manager of Operations Planning, which is a relatively new group that's been formalized to report to myself, but really to help to coordinate a lot of these large projects and implementation efforts. As this group well knows, we had been accustomed to implementing capital projects and other large initiatives on a much slower pace in years past. Now, as we move forward and continue a rapid expansion and implementation, Bob's expertise and the team that he's forming will be extremely valuable for the entire organization and our partners. So Bob comes to us with a couple decades in the airline planning and management fields, as well as some transit background. I won't go through his entire biography, but he's also returning home because he had lived here several years ago. So we're happy to have him on the team. And with that, I'll turn it over to Adam and Bob.
Thank you, and welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, thank you. We're really pleased to be able to present to you an update on launch of the Metro E-line today. So we are 24 days away from December 6th, which will mark the first day of revenue service for the E-line. This afternoon, we want to talk about a few items, just sort of a little bit of a project overview for folks who are maybe new to the project, maybe haven't heard about it a lot recently, talk about sort of a recap of construction. I'll hand it over to Bob to talk about operational readiness. I'll talk a little bit more about our outreach and marketing efforts around launch of E-line service, and a little bit of a focus on opening day activities and what we have planned there. So again, for Metro, for folks who would like a little bit of background, Metro E-line is the France-Hennepin University and 4th Street corridor. It'll make 34 stops operating between Southdale Transit Center and Westgate Station, just over the Minneapolis-St. Paul border. It's upgrading the Route 6, which is one of our highest ridership local bus routes in our system. As I mentioned, opening December 6th here. And, you know, with the E-line being the third BRT line that we are opening this year in 2025, the Metro network will serve about 2% of the land area in the 7-county region, but that area, and this is walking distance from Metro stations, covers more than a quarter of the region's jobs and more than an eighth of the population. So really making the Metro network accessible to a larger portion of our region. A little bit about E-line funding, $64 million authorized budget. A little over half of that is from state sources, but then sizable proportions from federal and local and regional sources as well. We also brought about $11 million into the E-line construction contract for scope requested and funded by Hennepin County and the city of Minneapolis. So this went to fund a lot of pedestrian safety and accessibility improvements at a number of intersections throughout the corridor, as well as some upgrades in shared fiber optic network. For E-line service, it will operate from early in the morning to late at night, really providing that frequent service for the busiest times of the day. A number of stops will be eliminated as part of trying to improve travel times along the E-line, but there will be an E-line station within a block of the locations where 90% of current Route 6 trips are starting and ending. So still really providing that accessibility to a really high proportion of riders. And for those travel time improvements, looking at providing trips from uptown to downtown Minneapolis as fast as 10 minutes and uptown to the U of M in as fast as 20 minutes. And then with the supporting bus network, there's a new Route 36, which will continue to provide service along Xerxes Avenue, so taking that portion of the existing Route 6, and then Route 540 will provide service along portions of what is the existing Route 6K. So the overall takeaway is really that this is a service plan that is an investment in ridership growth, and that's something that we have seen historically and consistently with the implementation of past arterial BRT projects. So a little bit about construction of the E-line. Construction occurred over 2024 and 2025. 53 new BRT platforms with all of the features that those include. 25 of those platforms have been or will be constructed through in coordination with partner-led projects. 12 intersections included those locally funded improvements that I mentioned with the county and city putting funds in, and then the E-line will open with 3 temporary platforms on 4th Street and University Avenue, and those will serve E-line riders in advance of a MnDOT project in the future that will construct permanent stations as part of that broader project. And we also opened a new operator restroom as part of E-line construction at the northern terminus of the E-line. So there you see a photo of our ceremonial cutting of the toilet paper earlier this fall. Just a little bit of a quick run through some of the efforts that have occurred over 2025. Really got started, early in the year, getting shelters that were at stations that were built in 2024 up to a standard where they could be used by local bus route riders throughout this year. Getting preparations ready for construction and utility work while there was still snow on the ground. Here you can see in April. And then, the bulk of the station construction throughout the summer and into the early fall as well. Installation of a lot of the station amenities, including here you can see those pylons going in downtown Minneapolis. And then here's an example of one of the temporary stations I mentioned. So you'll see that this looks from a distance a lot more like a typical local stop with kind of a typical local bus stop sign and bolt down shelter. But then if you take sort of a closer look, you see some of those BRT features, fare collection equipment to enable off-board fare payment, a heater in that shelter, a real-time sign that's also mounted in the shelter. So again, that'll provide sort of that base level of BRT amenity in this interim period before MnDOT's project comes through. And then over the last month or so, it's really been kind of those last features, getting real-time signs installed, and a lot of the technology elements, emergency phones, CCTV cameras, and those sorts of features. And with that, I'll hand it over to Bob.
Great, thanks very much, Adam. In terms of operating resources, we're currently running 15 40-foot buses during the peak along Route 6. There will be 16 buses. These will be the 60-foot articulated buses that will be operating on the E-line once we get that up and running. In addition, we'll have 4 40-foot peak buses on the Route 36. That's the Xerxes piece to ensure we have coverage for that area. This compares to 19 buses that we use today on the B line, as well as 20 to 22 buses we use during the peak on the D line. That number's been fluctuating this year due to construction projects and runtime changes along that route to make it more reliable. In terms of operational readiness, the E-line project team, along with pretty much most of the groups involved in operational planning and making sure that routes ready to rock and roll, have been working together to identify and address any issues found. Earlier this summer, we've been out there a couple times with the articulated buses that we'll be using when this line comes to fruition, and we've twice gone through there. On some of these buses, the first bus we went out there with, we took video of the route, which we used to develop the curriculum and the training materials for the operators. As part of that, we identified a couple of locations that we've made very sure that we have gotten covered in the curriculum, and that today, in fact, since November 3rd, we've been taking the drivers out there in the 60-foot articulated buses, going through all these different areas, and made sure that we've got standard operating procedures in place to ensure the safe and reliable operation of the E-line. The 2 locations we're going to be taking a look at and monitoring are listed here. There's a picture there of the turn from Sheridan onto 39th Street. You'll see there's a white stop bar there behind the crosswalk. we're making sure that that's going to work out pretty well. We might need to perhaps move it back. We'll see how it goes, but based on the strength of the training materials and the work we're doing currently with the operators, we have every belief that this will be it'll be in good shape. Again, we'll monitor it. We don't really want to move that white line back too much further, because the further away you move from the intersection, the less compliance you see from vehicles coming up to the intersection itself. But again, a couple spots we'll be keeping an eye on.
All right. And so a little bit about the work that is going into marketing and outreach before the launch. Then I'll talk about opening day and beyond opening day as well. But two main themes for this period here before launch. One is really learning from our past line launches. One of the things we're doing is really having a specific marketing plan for Route 36 for those local service changes, as well as additional in-reach efforts to make sure that Metro Transit staff are aware of the changes and have an opportunity to ask questions, hear about the changes, the service changes that are occurring with the E-line. Also continuing success that we've had with community-based organizations as a way to partner with really local experts along the corridor and reach audiences that we don't always reach on our own, as well as a continued emphasis in our materials on that pre-board fare payment and really highlighting that as a difference with the Metro system. The other big theme is tailoring the plan to the E-line itself, as well as December in Minnesota, right? So unique challenges with a December service launch. So really looking at having, an indoor-focused celebration, complemented by a passport program that I'll talk a little bit more about to still help folks get around the corridor and explore all of the great destinations along the E-line. The other big thing is really emphasizing that onboard outreach on buses, as well as enhanced communication in advance of the launch, making sure that nobody is left out in the cold on December 6th waiting for a bus that is not going to come. So in November, next week, actually, we'll be dedicating our Great Day in Transit to the Route 6 corridor, helping to start providing that message to riders, and that'll be a theme that continues with ambassador shifts when the E-line opens. For the opening day celebration, it'll be taking place in downtown Minneapolis at Minneapolis College. We'll have an indoor celebration there following the ribbon cutting. That'll feature a number of family-friendly activities. We also will have sponsored rides on the E-line on December 6th, thanks to Minneapolis College for our sponsored partnership there. And as I mentioned, the E-line Passport Adventure Program, which will be a fun way of getting folks to explore some of the E-line corridor on their own and be able to collect stamps for a very special prize. And then after launch day, we still want to continue doing some outreach. This is really, a number of things, continuing to leverage those community-based organization partnerships, continuing to attend community events and additional communications. One of the big focuses with this is going to be college and high school campuses, knowing how the semester schedule is, and as folks get back to campus in January, really making sure, hey, the E-line's here now, it's open, and helping to build those new habits. And Bob, go ahead.
Sure, thanks, Adam. We've had an exciting year here. We've started the Gold Line, the B, and now the E. I want to share with you some upcoming activations as well, so you can see the momentum that we're working with. In 2026, our activation efforts include the North Star bus replacement, which occurs on January 5th. That involves two lines, the 888, which will be serving Coon Rapids, Anoka, and Ramsey, as well as the 882, which will serve 2 points in Sherburne County, Big Lake, and Elk River. Later in the year, we've got the Further Renew the Blue bus bridging occurring. This will be a very important thing for us to manage. This is a much longer closure. The span of this closure is 44 days, where our most recent closure was a little less than 2 weeks. So we recently went forward to our executive team to share with them a recap of what had occurred in our last bus bridging effort and a forward plan to make sure that our next one is even more successful. Last but not least, we'll be doing an activation for the State Fair shuttles, which of course occurs during that fun time of the year at the end of August and early September, to make sure that that is something that we've got pulled together and that we've got a really good playbook going forward. In 2027 and beyond, our activities will also include the Gold Line extension. That will include absorbing the current Route 94 between St. Paul and Minneapolis as to be part of the Gold Line. And then we've got the Green Line extension. There's been, of course, a lot of activity about that. Quite a long planning horizon to activate that sometime during 2027. And last but certainly not least, the G Line Phase 1. Phase 1 would be the G Line taking on the Route 62 from St. Paul to points north of the city. With that, Madam Chair, council members, we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you both. Questions, comments? Councilmember Lindstrom.
Just curious, on the last slide, the activation of the state fair shuttles, do you anticipate any major changes related to that?
No, not really. The change we're going to have this year is that the Renew the Blue activities occurred after State Fair. Normally it takes us a couple of months to prepare the buses for the State Fair, and that would have occurred in June. This coming year, because the Renew the Blue will be happening in front of the State Fair, we'll be activating those buses early, and then we'll need to keep them warm and active for the State Fair activities themselves.
Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson and then Pacheco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have to ask, I used to be the executive director at 50th in France, so great work putting this great new transit amenity through, but they do close down during the Diana Art Fair. So do you reroute, or do you just use the line on Xerxes, or how do you manage, when they've got hundreds of thousands of people coming through there? How does that work?
Sure. So our street operations team, we work very closely with them to identify a suitable detour to maintain the route that does not interfere with any festivals or anything else that's going on. We do that with as much advance notice as possible, and we'll include that as part of our training alerts and curriculum for our drivers.
Great. And then just, Madam Chair, if I may, as you said, there's a ton of employers along this route, and in part it's been served by bus, but, are you working with employers to help, as they are looking for employees to, say, hey, this new option for you exists? Is there anything, I guess, outreach to job providers?
Yeah, Chair and Council Member. Yeah, that's part of our ongoing outreach through our commuter programs and many of those programs as well. We're certainly spreading the word about the E-Line as a new option that, as part of our expanding metro network. I believe there's a presentation occurring on Monday to some of those groups as well, again, to just spread the word and make sure folks are aware of the opportunities that are out there, especially for employers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was looking at slide 15 and you were having the different stops. And one was 39th and Sheridan, which is where I get on. But you say you're going to monitor it. Where can you go? What are your options monitoring that?
Well, by monitoring, we want to make sure that turn is safe in both directions. And so we'll be getting information from our operators on feedback there and see if there's any adjustments we would need to make.
It's a very tight corner.
Yes.
And it's all, if you look at even the pictures, the residents are like, they're closer than you and I.
Yes. Yes, that's actually my picture there, so.
And Chair and Council Member, another thing that we're following up on there too is looking at the signal phasing and how the left turn phase works to ensure that that is working as designed and working in a way that helps to minimize those issues so that, essentially the turn is clear as it can be before buses are making that turn as well.
Councilmember.
And along that same route, you have both the bus going down 39th and Sheridan, and you're taking out the 39th. Is that correct?
Chair, Council Member, so there's one platform that the northbound platform is on Sheridan, just south of 39th, and then the southbound platform is on 39th, just east of Sheridan.
But going forward, is there going to be a separate bus? Is there going to be, so 39th would be, that normally would take you to France and then go up. That would be gone. It would just take Sheridan all the way to France and then up.
Chair,
right?
Council Member.
So we're losing one route there. I could stand there and catch one of two buses.
That's
so
right.
One will be gone.
Right. So yes, that's right. So that pattern that exists today that continues on 39th west of Sheridan and then south on France to 44th, service will be discontinued there and it'll be replaced by the E-Line, which will travel south on Sheridan, west on 44th, and then south on France.
Last question. So December 6th, that one go away, or are they both going to run for a while?
Chair, council member, those service changes are all on December 6th.
Okay.
So that's all part of the information that we're packaging, including, and getting the word out to folks about.
Thank you. I like the information because I get asked from my neighbors.
I can tell he gets asked a lot about this, so. All right, any other questions, comments from council members? Just a couple for me. This is a great project. I'm really excited about this. I mean, when you have up on the slide, uptown to downtown in 10 minutes, I mean, like, there's no way you could even drive that fast. So like, this is really kind of amazing, what we're doing here. So really, really excited about it. So thank you all for your hard work. Welcome to the team, for sure. To my council members, everybody has an invite in their calendar for December 6th and the opening of the E-line. So hope to see you all there. All right, thank you. All right, on to our final information item. It's our arterial BRT plan update. We have Kyle O'Donnell Burrows here to present.
Good afternoon, Chair, council members. Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Kyle O'Donnell Burrows. I'm the planning manager for arterial BRT here at Metro Transit. And I'm here to share tonight the technical evaluation results for the corridors that we have considered for the arterial BRT plan update process. So you heard from Adam and Bob about what's happening right now, and here we're going to look a little bit farther out for our program. Today we'll give a little bit of a brief recap on the arterial BRT plan update and our activities to date, making sure that we're all sort of grounded in this process that we've been undertaking over the course of this year, and then get into the results of our step 3, the technical evaluation results that we've recently completed, and then also get into previewing some of the considerations we'll be taking for our 4th step, or prioritization. So we'll be selecting the J, K, and L line. And as a reminder here, we're sort of at step 3 of 4 steps in our overall process where we're at tonight. So first, a quick reminder of where arterial BRT falls within our overall Metro Transit bus network. As we know, Metro Transit has a variety of tools available to us to apply in our transit toolbox depending on the need that we're trying to serve. And these tools really fall within a sort of a coverage and ridership spectrum, where coverage-oriented services are really designed to cover a particular geographic area with that basic level of transit service, ensuring that folks who live or travel in that area have that basic access to transit. The sort of example of that is our demand responsive style services, including Metro Micro. Arterial BRT is on the ridership end of the spectrum here, where the goal is really to serve as many people as possible, as simply and quickly as possible, to really generate as much ridership as possible. And that typically occurs in our higher population and employment density corridors on simpler, more direct routes. And our overall policy guidance here reflects those different purposes. So the Transportation Policy Plan guides us to really try for 25 or more passengers per in-service hour on arterial BRT, which is the highest among our transit services, and really directs us to be focusing on market area 1 and 2 for this style of service. So as we all know, we have 8 lines planned by 2030. The A line through D line are currently in operation today, with B line having opened earlier this summer. We just heard about the E line, which is opening on December 6th. We're very excited about that. And then the F line, G line, and H line are planned to open. They're in various phases of project development right now and plan to open before 2030. So the question really facing us now is, what do we do with the next 3 lines? So we're looking at, where should the J line, K line, and L line go in that 2030 to 2035 horizon, so past what we know to be the Metro H line. We intend to submit the J line for consideration for the 2026 regional solicitation process, which of course is undergoing an update right now as well. So folks will have seen this slide previously, but just as a quick reminder, we are taking that 4-step planning process to ultimately identify the next lines for implementation for arterial BRT. We began earlier this year identifying a large set of candidate corridors to start from, and began narrowing down throughout the year through a screening step to help us identify the most promising corridors to really then dig into in a lot more detailed evaluation. We're here today to talk about those evaluation results. So we performed a detailed technical analysis of these corridors that advanced and have really ranked them by their technical score, really based on how well they advance and align with the goals of this work. Upcoming, we'll be undertaking the prioritization step, where we're really looking hard at these corridors and kind of going through corridor by corridor and really assessing, is this corridor ready for implementation as one of the next arterial BRT lines? So thinking a lot about how those corridors fit together. We'll preview a little bit of what we'll be thinking about here, but really it's readiness and partner coordination here for selecting those next lines. These 4 goals have really guided our work throughout this plan update process. They're equally weighted goals, really focusing around ridership, around advancing equity, around costs and sustainable growth of our network, and around land use and connecting transit supportive land uses. And these has really guided our decision-making throughout this plan update, as well as specifically tied evaluation criteria and screening criteria to these goals. So folks will have seen this map before. This is where we started earlier this year with these 17 candidate corridors. And as a reminder, these have really been drawn from existing and planned high-frequency local bus routes, partner priorities, and priorities from our identified in policy. We screened these 17 corridors down to these 10 based on those screening criteria that we updated the council on earlier this year. While doing this work, Metro Transit has also been working with the City of St. Paul, MnDOT, and Metro and ourselves to really be developing a multimodal corridor a multimodal concept in the West 7th Street corridor. So this is the former Riverview corridor. Folks are quite familiar with, the decades of planning work that have really gone on in this corridor. This concept would have included a more substantial investment in BRT, so really more on the color side of things for BRT rather than the arterial BRT lines, which use letter designations. Partners were unable to reach an agreement on funding for that coordinated concept, and as of early October, that concept is no longer moving forward. However, as an outcome of that work, Metro Transit has included the West 7th corridor from downtown St. Paul to the Mall of America in our plan update process, and we have evaluated it along with the other corridors that advanced through that work. We made sure also to compare that corridor to how it would have done in our screening step, and it would have advanced along with the other corridors as well had this corridor been in our process at that time. So I think in recognition of all the planning work that had gone on into this corridor and the coordination work and really the kind of need for transit in this corridor, brought that into our evaluation process here. And so bringing that corridor in brings us to 11 corridors considered for evaluation. So bringing West 7th in doesn't knock any additional corridors out. It was really an additive consideration here. And so these are those 11 corridors that we performed that evaluation step on and have results for today. These are those evaluation criteria. I won't go into detail on each of these, but we have 4 evaluation criteria assigned to each of our 4 goals for 16 total evaluation criteria. They really balance between looking at existing conditions and future conditions, as well as thinking about how the corridor fits within the overall network versus performs on its own individually. And applying those evaluation criteria brings us to these evaluation results. So what we're looking at here is the corridors ranked out of 100 possible points, highest to lowest. And then each goal is sort of distinguished by the different colors there. So ridership, equity, costs, and land use could contribute up to 25 points out of that total score. So what we can see is that there are 3 corridors that really emerge as sort of those highest scoring corridors: the Nicollet Avenue corridor, Franklin Grand 3rd Street corridor, and the West 7th Street corridor. The other corridors, continue down from there at about an equal distribution between points, stepping down from that Payne-Westminster corridor down to the Lowry Avenue corridor. As we get into ultimately trying to select the J, K, and L lines from those corridors, I think it's important for us to stop and remind ourselves that these technical evaluation results are really an important guide for us, but these technical evaluation criteria can't capture everything that's important into selecting the next 3 lines, and are an important part of the starting point of the picture, but not the entire picture. So that's what our step 4 prioritization is for, where we're really going to be looking at starting from those technical evaluation results as really our first start. Thinking about community and rider feedback, and thinking about readiness considerations and agency partner coordination. And I'll speak to each of those in a little bit more detail. But really starting from the top and working our way down corridor by corridor, reviewing those, and potentially holding a corridor that might be higher scoring based on whether or not it's ready to go right now, or whether we need to spend more time answering some questions about that corridor before it's ready for implementation as the J, K, or L line. And so first, thinking about outreach and engagement, our major feedback period was really over this summer, so July through September of this year, and focusing on those corridors that were advanced for additional consideration, as well as earlier in the year, focusing on those corridors that came out for screening. Our goal here was really to identify and document kind of the local knowledge that that exists in these corridors, and help us identify what are some potential readiness considerations that we need to be thoughtful of, what are some potential planning questions that we either have the answer to now or potentially don't have the answer to now, as well as identifying any places of community concern or potential opportunities to be collaborating in the future. And so this engagement work builds on the broader themes as well from other recent engagement efforts and kind of planning processes, including Network Now and other things at Metro Transit. We're really bringing all of these things together to help us identify next steps as well. Thinking about coordination with readiness and thinking about readiness and partner coordination, really thinking about 3 questions we're going to be asking ourselves and kind of assessing each of these corridors on. So first, thinking about how compatible are current and future roadway conditions with implementing the arterial BRT infrastructure that we need to be building for these corridors. So the operation of this corridor and the stations themselves. Can the stations fit within the roadway context is really that key question. The second question we're asking ourselves is how well does each corridor fit within the overall existing and planned transit network? So many corridors, all of these corridors score well, but some of the higher ranking corridors, score well individually, but maybe they're fairly close to other existing or planned metro networks, metro corridors that are under consideration or under implementation. Is this the right next corridor to be investing in over the near term? And then finally, are there major unanswered questions about the arterial BRT corridor alignment itself? So do we need to be doing more work to confirm the specific route that a corridor would take? Or do we have confidence in the route as it's been identified right now? So along with those readiness questions, we'll be asking ourselves, really thinking too about coordinating with our roadway partners with respect to timing future roadway projects. Our goal here is really to align these potential arterial BRT corridors with planned or programmed roadway projects so that we don't find ourselves in a position where we're needing to, make significant delays to a particular corridor to better align with, a major roadway project. So the timing there is really crucial, and that will help us identify which corridor should be J-line, which corridor should, may be a good corridor, but it should be, L-line to try to coordinate with a roadway project. So on to what we're doing right now. We are obviously have been throughout this work and are really intensifying now the ongoing coordination with our partners on those planned and programmed roadway projects and talking with our partners about their priorities for that type of investment. We are going to continue to complete and produce that prioritization work and kind of assess these corridors on those readiness questions. And then anticipating January coming forward with an information item with recommendations for the JK and L line before coming back to the council in the February-March timeframe for a business item for adoption of those recommendations. Later this spring, we'll be then coordinating with MTS and the council to submit the J line for the 2026 the corridor that is identified as the J line for the 2026 regional solicitation work, as well as work to amend the transportation policy plan to reflect the outcomes of this work. And with that, I will pause for questions.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Questions, comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. Regarding the West 7th corridor, or actually all of them, as they move through are we still requiring that our local partners have some sort of resolution at some point that they're all in on this so that we've got that firm commitment?
Madam Chair, council members, yes, that's correct. So that's part of the Transitway Advancement Policy, and that will be part of bringing these forward into the Transportation Policy Plan.
Yeah, and then I'll just ask maybe some questions around West 7th, as this thing is continuing to evolve, because I was really excited that maybe BRT could land there and address some of the questions that they had, with some of former modes that were conceived. So that one I read about it, but that one just, I just need to understand that, because I was just really excited about something happening in that corridor, and I felt like that investment, the time is right and everything. So I'll just ask my questions, outside of a meeting to find out what else is going on.
Okay, Councilmember Carter.
Thank you. Appreciating Councilwoman Johnson's comments, I would like to say I was very excited too, and remain very excited about the potential for all of our corridors, and in particular, a long plan and a weighted West 7th corridor. On that point, I'd like to ask, while we were doing the community engagement that we did for the identification of these prioritized corridors, there was not that same engagement going on, of course, for West 7th, but a lot of other processes were happening tandem with that. I'm assuming then that as we look at community engagement and the voices that we heard, there's a way to align that work that was done to the manner and the method that we used for other work. So much had been heard, and I would hate for the corridor to not have the benefit of all of that input. Can you tell me how that is being managed, and if I can be assured that that is the case?
Madam Chair, council members, yes, we, Metro Transit, and specifically the group of us working on this work, the arterial BRT plan update, have the engagement results and the detailed documentation of the engagement work that was done on the West 7th corridor concept in partnership with St. Paul and MnDOT. And a lot of those key insights can apply directly to the work that we're seeing. So in terms of potential, questions about a particular detail of how the corridor might work, we have those and have that pulled right into the work that we have right now as well. I will also note too that before that corridor was brought into the arterial BRT plan update process, we heard feedback from folks about interest in that corridor, obviously. And so we were able to, point to that other planning work that was happening. And so I have now kind of brought those threads back together as well.
Councilmember Carter?
I'd just like to appreciate also the inclusion of the corridor in the technical assessment. And it sounds to me as though your response indicates that that work is already aligned. I know also that you've been working with the city, and so I'm glad to understand that it isn't so far apart that we can't merge that. And finally, there isn't a plan, of course. Things have changed so much, but I assume there isn't a disadvantage for that corridor either, in that these corridors are identified for interest. None of them are planned. So it really isn't that late in terms of the ability to consider it on par with others. And that's an assumption I'm making. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Madam Chair, council members, I can confirm that assumption that, these corridor, by bringing the West 7th corridor into our evaluation process, really it's an apples to apples comparison between the corridors now that are being considered for arterial BRT.
Great. Thank you so much for that confidence.
And I'll just say kudos to our staff to doing it pretty quickly, because when things changed, we knew we had to adapt. So there's much appreciation for that. Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ride the 54 and I share the concerns that have been expressed. I was very disappointed to hear that it wasn't going to be a color. Is that for sure totally dead, or is there still any possibility that maybe we could? Because I just feel like people notice those more, and having that connection from downtown St. Paul to the airport, I don't want people to not realize that is a key connection.
We'll invite Nick Thompson up.
That's a
Activities have been going on throughout the
Madam
week,
Chair,
so I don't have the
Councilmember,
actual latest.
Yeah, typically on the BRTs where we have a color letter that involves county funding participation. And, the work we did earlier this year, we stopped partly because we didn't find a solution that Ramsey County, would have been Hennepin County also were comfortable with contributing to. So we brought it into this process because we knew it's a very important transit corridor and we wanted to not lose that opportunity. But we still continue those discussions with the counties and MnDOT and the city, St. Paul in particular, and we're still trying to bring them to the table because it's just such a good transit corridor, and I think we had a really good plan. We thought that we actually had an internal color name for it too, we want to invest in this corridor, even if it is in the ABRT. I think that would be partnered with investment from the local road authority, so we'll get better transit in this corridor, and agree that having the counties participate would be a good add to this too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, thank you, Nick. Additional questions, comments? I just said continued great work. This is fantastic. I was meeting with legislators or getting calls even over the last couple of weeks, and they're like, what's your 10-year plan? I'm like, well, it's this. And so it's very nice to be able to sit down and very quickly show them everything, because we do have a plan, and it's really nice to see and how it evolves. And I also, appreciate how you go through it, and we're looking at the technical piece, but that readiness piece is so important and what the community thinks. We've seen that with all these big projects, and so it's so nice that that's really built into this process. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Kyle. All right, so that is the end of our information items tonight. So chair report, there's a couple of things. So we had a Beeline celebration on last Saturday, which was attended by both council members Carter and Councilmember Lilligren. It was a great event. We were celebrating 1 million rides on the Beeline, which was fantastic. It was a great event, I think, and really appreciate council members Carter and Lilligren for speaking at the event as well. Just want a quick reminder that Committee of the Whole next week is in District 11 in Woodbury. So, yes.
It's in District 12.
Is it in District 12? Oh, well, okay. District 11 representative is the lead. It's technically in District 12. Thank you. So, yes.
Wow.
Nuances. I did know this, actually. So, yeah. Yes. So minor boundary differences. So both Councilmember Cedarburg and Jenkins will be involved, which is very exciting. And we'll be talking a lot about water. All right. Any council member updates? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief, but I had the pleasure and honor of participating in the final ribbon cutting of the final phase of 610 in Maple Grove. This has been 30 years in the making, and Met Council had a big role in that through TAB and funding and all of the other partners as well. So I just want to give a shout out to Mayor Mark Stephenson, who has been very steadfast in this corridor and the I-94 corridor. We worked shoulder to shoulder when I was a mayor and council member too. All the partners that were there were fabulous, and so it's just good to know that we were part of the last piece of something that people have been waiting a very, very long time for, and that concrete was beautiful, white and shiny. I've never been more happy to cut a ribbon on top of brand new concrete. So again, a shout out to all the partners on the project. It was a great day.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, other council member reports. All right, then Regional Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just say, as a resident of Maple Grove, I too welcome that addition. It provides a few more options, which is great, but nothing else for me. Thank you.
General Counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. I just wanted to note that business items 2025-261 and 262 clearly have a case of the gremlins. My calendar tells me today is November 12th. Those business items say November 5th for the council meeting date. Don't ask me why. I can't look at them again. I think it's an administrative clerical change that we can make, but for interest of transparency.
Madam Chair, I would move that we would make those clerical corrections for those two items as noted by our general counsel.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
And Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we have no more gremlins haunting us here at the Park.
We're going to not accept that motion, but it's fair. It's well respected. All right, very good. Then I just want to close out. So this is the final council meeting that I will chair here. So we can move to committee of the whole next week. So first, I want to thank all of my council members who've been fantastic through this. All of the staff has been wonderful. You guys have been just amazing. I want to especially thank me and her team because they kept me organized and kept everything going, and they are the ones behind all of it, and really appreciated that. And I know he's not here tonight, and no diss on Phil, but I want to really thank Ryan. He's been very helpful and was brief, but we made a good team. So with that, we can be adjourned.
No, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Johnson. I was trying to be very fast.
No, Miss Humble Chair, no. I just want to say thank you for your great leadership for all these many years, and certainly in this really critical time in Met Council when we, were transitioning when Chair Zelli retired. I have just respected and admired you, your leadership style, especially right now, your abilities, your expertise, your tenaciousness, your willingness to give up your normal life and really hunker down meant a lot to all of these council members, all of the staff. We're going through a lot of good things at the council, but it's a lot of change. And I know I slept well with you at the helm, just with your steady leadership and always reaching out to people, your guidance, the immense amount of respect you have across this region at all levels of government. And I'll just be honest, I had hoped that you would be the chair for longer, but things don't always work out the way I would like them to. But I want to just tell you how proud I am to serve under you as you led this organization and how much I appreciate everything that you've done for the entire region. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, can I go now? All right, we're adjourned.